Today's Lunch and Learn will be on Bookshare, eContent, and the Connect 12. I'm going to slash in the Mat Connect also, because the Mat Connect is the same version as the Connect 12, but for the an APH device. The agenda of this webinar, I'm accompanied with Vanessa Lombardo from Bookshare. She's going to be co-hosting this webinar with me today. As an agenda, we're going to have a little introduction and goal settings for this webinar. We'll be talking a bit about Bookshare eContent presentation. And lastly, we're going to present what we're going to do a little demo on how it's used, how Bookshare is used on the Prodigy software, which is on the Connect 12 and the Mat Connect. And feel free, if you have any questions during the webinar, use the chat or the Q&A section of Zoom, and I'll keep an eye on those windows so that we can answer them as we move along. So, like I was saying, I'm accompanied with Vanessa Lombardo from Benetech. I'm gonna let Vanessa present herself, and then I'll do a little introduction for myself at Humanware. Hi,
That's
Vanessa.
great. Hi, Eric. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. We appreciate this partnership with Humanware and all the different devices that you can read Bookshare books on. So I'm Vanessa Lombardo. I am the training and learning manager. I do some outreach, working really with all of our stakeholders to think about the training content that we're providing at Bookshare, and making sure that everyone knows how to access Bookshare books, on a variety of devices. And I'm glad to be here today.
Thank you, Vanessa. My name is Eric Beauchamp. For those who don't know me, I'm Director of Product Management here at Humanware. I've been with Humanware for 12 years now. I was previously the product owner or the product manager for all low vision devices here at Humanware. So the Connect 12 is, you can say, it's one of my little babies that I saw grew up during the years. And I'm very happy to be here and showing how we can read books or e-content on the Connect 12. So I'm going to end the poll here before passing it to Vanessa so that she can talk about e-content on Bookshare. So a bit of results here. We're about half and half. So half the people own the Mat Connect or Connect 12, and the other half doesn't. And there's a bit. Well, and then the second question, the level of experience with either of the two devices. About a third have no experience whatsoever. So I'll just do a little introduction of what is the Connect 12 and what can be done on it. But the majority of this Lunch and Learn is going to be how to access e-content on the Connect 12. Two goals today, because it's a half an hour webinar. It's going to go by so quickly. So only two goals: understand how e-content benefits learners, and the second goal, learn how Prodigy software delivers e-content. Vanessa, the stage is yours.
Wonderful. Thanks. So one of the things, I have been with Bookshare for around 3 years, and we know there's been a huge shift in education and society, right? Lots and lots of changes. And so we just wanted to take a minute just to talk about Bookshare for anyone who doesn't already know what Bookshare is, because we're just finding that with just a lot of information coming at people, we can't just make an assumption. So very, very briefly, Bookshare is an accessible ebook library. It is intended to give access to individuals who have difficulty accessing standard print, access to information and to content. We work directly with the publishers, which is why we have over 1 million book titles. And that really spans the gamut. We have New York Times bestsellers, lots of different novels, as well as textbooks, books for upskilling and learning how to do different things, as well as periodicals. So like I said, we really do have a very broad collection, and we're working directly with the publishers to get those titles, which is really great that we can get so many and get them so quickly. To use Bookshare, a person has to qualify. This is through an exemption through the copyright law, and really the person has to have a print disability or a difficulty in one of 3 areas. So a visual impairment, someone with a physical impairment, or someone with a learning difference. So if there is someone who has a difference in any of those categories, they would qualify for Bookshare. So it's very important to understand that it is something that you must qualify for. Eric, if you go to the next slide, please.
There you go.
Great. Great. So some of the other features that, again, I just like to mention, it's a huge library, but we do have many curated reading lists. So the Bookshare website, for those who don't know, is bookshare.org. Anyone can go on and look and see what is in the collection. But again, you must be a member. You must qualify to access the books. But we have a collections development team that work really hard with curating lots of different reading lists to make it more manageable. You, again, can search for any book that you want, but subscribing to some of the reading lists help people find what they're looking for or types of genres, and really broadens their scope of reading, which is great. The way that Bookshare is structured, you can either have an organizational account. Typically, this is for students or individuals who are part of a larger organization. Could be a community group, could be a college, could be, like I said, a K-12 school district, or an individual membership. And actually, I shouldn't say or, it really should say and. You can have both if you do belong to an organization or an individual membership. The individual membership, you can read anything you want, whereas with an organizational membership, there is one level of someone who does need to assign the books to you. But again, you can have both, but we really encourage people to have individual memberships because we want to give them choice of what they read. And that goes into the choice of reading tools. So as I mentioned, we have lots of different AT partners, which we really appreciate. Bookshare has their own reader as well. And obviously, we're going to really be talking about the Humanware devices today. But we really believe in giving users choice, students, adults, everyone in between, to access books in ways that work for them. Eric, next slide, please. Great. So as I mentioned, we do have a Bookshare reader for web, and we do have a mobile app. And obviously, Eric, I'll pass it over to you to talk a little bit about some of the Humanware devices.
So yes, like Vanessa was saying, you can access it through the web, a web browser or a mobile device. But at Humanware, we included it in several other devices that we support. So the Connect 12, the Mat Connect, which is going to be the subject today, but we also have access to Bookshare through the Braille Note Touch, which is our Braille intelligent display, and then the Victor Reader Stream and the Victor Reader Trek.
Great.
Yeah.
Next slide, please. Wonderful. So one of the things that I work on quite a bit and listen to educators and parents is around implementing Bookshare, right? So we have a student, we have them signed up. We even gave them some books, whether we assigned books to them or they chose them on their own. But now we really want to talk about, how do you implement Bookshare? Looking at it through the lens of a student in a classroom, could be a general ed classroom, a recess room, resource room rather, in other types of settings as well, public school, private school. It really doesn't matter. A student who is homeschooled, we really want to encourage and empower educators, parents to be able to implement Bookshare. So this slide really talks about some of those details, and I do want to go through them step by step, especially if you are on an organizational account where you, the student or the parent, does not have access to some of the settings or some of the network features. Working with the IT team and obviously educators as well. One of the things sometimes is that we know different things are blocked sometimes in districts. So really making sure that the IT team is working with you to really understand why the student needs to use Bookshare, and really providing that access. So that's one thing that sometimes we see as a trip up where the school can't even get access to it. So having those conversations is really important, and explaining the why. The next thing is subscribing to some of those reading lists. So as I mentioned, we do have these curated lists that our team creates, but a teacher or a school can create their own reading lists. We see this quite a bit with summer reading, where the school will create a summer reading list, and that way everything is available to the student. They subscribe, and then they are able to access all the books on that list. We talked a little bit about this before, the individual membership, the IM or the OM, organizational membership. But again, we really want to promote independence for everybody. And so having that individual membership really empowers the student to read what they want. This next point is really important. On any device that you are using, we really want students to customize their reading experience within the Bookshare reader and within all the different devices. Obviously, again, we're going through the Humanware devices today, but there are settings, there are ways to customize the reading. That way, the individual is getting the content in a way that works for them. So we really want to encourage students to set up the device or the app, the software in ways that are going to really be most beneficial to them. Two others that I just wanted to touch on briefly, just in our limited time, which again, this is very straightforward, but finding genres that are highly engaging. We have a lot of students who are reluctant readers, and I'm sure if you're an educator, you have definitely heard that sentiment, or certainly that label, I guess we can say. Really getting at what does the student want to read, and then finding that within the catalog. You can request books as well if the book is not in there and the student really wants to read it. So really finding what is going to motivate the student, which again is a very straightforward thing, but sometimes with Bookshare, we see that teachers will focus on, well, what do they need to read, right? What is required reading? And obviously we want to make sure that the student is providing and doing all their required tasks. But when we're talking about reading, we really want to make sure that students are engaged and that they like reading. And then this one, again, the last one I want to touch on, determine what books will be used throughout the year. Again, as I mentioned, you can request books. If we already have a relationship with that publisher, then that can be a pretty seamless process. But if we need to get the book and chop and scan it, which we rarely, but sometimes still do, or more likely, we have to get a contract with that publisher, get an agreement to get the book. It can be very time heavy. And so we really want to get the content rather to the student in a timely manner and as quickly as possible. So if we have some lead time, if we do have to ingest it into the system, as much lead time as possible definitely helps. Eric, next slide, please.
Oh, it's my slide now.
All right. Go ahead.
And I want to come back to the engaging part of reading. I think you nailed it there, Vanessa. Students really need to be engaged, and let them find what their interest in reading. As long as they're reading, that's perfect. I have a 13-year-old boy at home, and if he's not interested in reading, he's not going to read at all. So that's a very
Yes.
important topic there.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump on the Prodigy software. How did we integrate this e-content that Bookshare offers on our application, especially the Connect 12 and the Mat Connect? The Mat Connect is the APH version for those of you who own a Mat Connect. This is what we're going to be talking about in this slide. Why is this a powerful tool? We've integrated it into the Prodigy software, where it has the same look and feel, but you can have the text-to-speech, so TTS, so different languages can be set up, so you can hear it. Read out loud, and you can modify the rate or the voice that you are reading in. There's a magnification level that you can adjust. So you have a preferred magnification level, or you can use a pinch and zoom gesture, or even there's buttons that are very simple to use to be able to magnify the content. You can adjust the reading mode. So we have 3 reading modes. So you have a page reading mode, a column reading mode. The column reading mode will take out all the graphics, and you have one column of text. And we have also a line mode, which is going to be one single line passing through the display. Multiple color contrasts. The color contrast that the student or the person using the device will be able to use or comfortable with. But also you can have all kinds of navigation throughout the book. So there is a table of contents, so you can put bookmarks on them. You can even annotate the books as you read along. So let's jump to it. I love doing demos, so let's jump to the demo. It's nothing better than seeing it live. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now, and I will switch to my other camera, which you should be able to see my Connect 12 that I have here. I'm just going to spotlight myself here so that you can only see my screen. There we go. So I'm just going to do a brief introduction of what is the Connect 12 for those of you who don't know what the Connect 12 is or the Mat Connect. So basically, what I have here, I'm going to zoom out from I'm going to zoom out here so you can see a bit of what it is. But basically, the Connect 12 is an Android-based tablet, which we have developed our own proprietary software called Prodigy on the tablet here. So Prodigy, when you launch the tablet or when you boot up the tablet, will launch into Prodigy. And in Prodigy, you have several icons, you have several software or applications. So you have a magnifier application, you have a gallery application, you have a settings application, you even have a help application. On the other side, you will have a distance application because the Connect 12 can be connected through a Kodak wireless camera to do distance viewing. For students, this is very useful to see what the teacher is teaching in front of the classroom. Have the books application. This is where I'm going to come back to and we'll do a little demonstration. This is where we connect to Bookshare and offer the same kind of color contrast or look and feel. We have which this is a brand new application that we just the Oxford Dictionary in French, English, and I think there's Arabic also. There is a calculator application. The calculator application, you have either a standard calculator, a graphing calculator, and even a scientific calculator. So the graphing calculator, we use Desmos tools and API to do that. And then the two last applications are to be able to search a tablet very quickly. So you don't have to go into the Android system at all. You can do everything in Prodigy and stay inside that accessible environment. So this is a brief introduction of the Connect 12. If you would like to know more, please go to our website and you'll learn more. And there's also our YouTube channel will offer a lot of tutorials on all kinds of features that is offered on the Connect 12. But let's jump right into the books application where we integrated the Bookshare API or SDK. So as when I tap on the book application, I'm just going to zoom in a bit here so that you guys can see better the menu. You'll have a menu and you have several options here, and there's two buttons on the top, left and right. So the left hand corner is always going to be the same button everywhere in Prodigy. It's going to be your back button to go back in history or to go back where you were previously. And then on the top right, there's always the settings menu where you can adjust either your color contrast or your preferences in that application. But in the menu, you have My Books. So the My Book option is where you have downloaded your books. This is where it's going to be all stored. My subscriptions, because Bookshare does offer subscription to magazines or periodicals, so you can subscribe to them and receive them in a timely fashion, and you'll be always updated in those editions. Manage libraries. I'm going to tap on that one and show it. But basically, you can manage your book providers and magazine providers. So if I tap on book providers, we offer several other libraries. So we do offer Bookshare, but around the world they use other kinds of libraries like Bookshare, and we do offer a lot of those options. In the back, I can say we use the Easy Reader API. So for those of you who know the application Easy Reader from Dolphin, we use that same API to connect to different libraries. The same for the magazine providers. You can connect to different libraries as Bookshare. So right now I have configured my tablet to be able to access my Bookshare account. And as Vanessa was saying, there's two types of accounts, one organizational account and one individual account. I'm in an individual account, but if in the organizational account, the student will be seeing the reading list that the teacher would share to that student. So so you would only see that list. But here, if I go to Bookshare, I'm gonna be able to do different stuff. I can search. I can search by either titles. So if I tap on here, I can search by title, by author, by parts of a title, and it's going to return a list of what it found in the Bookshare database. I can see my reading list that I've adjusted or put together. I can see my history of my reading, the latest reading that is available, the most popular also in the Bookshare database. I can search by ISBN, sorry, or I can search by category or even by grade, depending on the grade of the student. So pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, etc. And it goes up to college, undergraduate, even adult ed. So this is very useful. It groups all the reading and it puts everything available for you to download and to read. So here, let's search. I have a real book. This is one of my son's books. So it's called Schooled by Gordon Corman. So if we take a look and search for the book School. So I'm just going to type in the title here, and I'm going to tap on the paper airplane, the button on the top right corner, and that's going to search through the database, and it's going to return to me all the books that are called Schooled. And there's a couple, and so each version is specific to or different from the other. But basically, when I tap one of them, I'll get a book detail, and it's kind of like reading the back of the book. It gives you a summary of what is the book, the author, what category, and everything. And if I'm interested in downloading it, I just tap on the third button at the bottom here, which is a little arrow with kind of like a check mark or a bracket there, and it will download it to my tablet. Right now it's grayed out because I have already downloaded the book. So if I go back, I hit the back button on the left corner again, and I'm going to go back to my main menu of my books application and go to my books. So when I go to my books, I already have two downloaded books, which one of them is the Schooled book. So I'm going to go a bit quicker here. Time flies by, but if you do have questions, please post it in the chat or the Q&A. Now, I've opened my downloaded book to change pages. It's like an ordinary book. I just swipe on the screen to turn the page. And at the bottom, I have a button banner which has a couple of buttons. But one that I want to attract your attention to is the third button from the left, which is a pen. So if I tap on the pen, I'm able to use that pen with either my finger or even a little stylus here to take notes. So I can just write on the book and it's going to keep my writing or my notes on that page for me. I can even highlight, if I tap on the pen, I can highlight a passage in the book here and I want to remember that passage. I can highlight it. I can use different colors at the same time, and that's all going to be saved on the book. And going through the button banner at the bottom, I can start reading where I'm at. So you can see at the top left corner, there's a baseball that's highlighted. So it's going to start reading there. So if I tap the play button, it's going to start reading the book. Okay. I'm going to pause it for now. And the other few buttons that are left, you have the minus and the plus. So that's to zoom in or zoom out. So if I hit the minus, it's going to zoom out for me. Or if I hit the plus button, I can tap on it or I can hold it, press and hold, and it's going to zoom in for me very nicely. And I can have that magnified on the screen. And the last button on the right is your tables of contents. So if I tap on that one, you'll have a navigation menu. So you have a table of content. You can go to a specific page and you can have a page list if you want to. But basically the tables of content, it's going to show you all the chapters and I can move through the chapters in the book very easily and very quickly. And one last feature that I'd like to show here, I can bookmark a page or a sentence or a part of the book to come back after a while. So on the top right corner, there's like a little flag icon on the top. So if I tap on that, I can add a bookmark. So by adding a bookmark, let's say I want to add this here because it's going to be important for me to come back to this page because there's some important information in this page, let's say. You'll notice that it's going to add at the top a little red flag there, and that's your bookmark. So I can navigate to that bookmark if I'm at another page in the book. So let's go to my chapter 8 in the book, and I want to come back to where I have bookmarked my page. I can tap on the bookmark button, and I can say go to, and go to my important bookmark, and it's going to navigate to where my bookmark was, where I set it. So very briefly, very quickly, this is how we navigate very quickly into a book. So I do have a question here, very good, because it's almost time to end this webinar. Is it necessary to provide proof of disability in order to qualify for Bookshare? So Vanessa, I'm going to leave you answer.
Sure, sure. I'm happy to answer that question. So it actually depends on which type of account. So in terms of the organizational account, so this would be, again, someone who is part of an organization, such as a school, a college, a university, an organization, a community organization. There must be someone there, typically the teacher, the educator, child study team member, learning specialist, reading specialist, someone who's already part of that organization, who is going to just simply add the student to the organizational account, because they are, by doing so, they are saying, yeah, or verifying, yes, I do have this student, I'm working with this student, and yes, they do in fact have a print disability. If you're an individual member, so someone who is not associated with any type of organization, there is a one-page form that does need to be provided to Bookshare, and it is our proof of disability form. And that it can be signed by, again, an educational specialist, reading specialist, social worker, teacher, tutor. Again, it could be a medical professional, but certainly does not have to be. There's a list of what we call the competent authority. That is what the law states, or the law is determined. That is the person who says, yes, this person or student, individual, adult, does in fact have a disability, a print disability, one of these three categories. So it does depend. It's a little nuanced. It depends on what type of account. One thing, though, just quick, that I did just want to wrap up by saying, which is we do not need any copy of a student's IEP should they have one, or a 504 plan should they have one. We do not require that information. We've never required that information. So just as a separate note there. So that was that one. And then, Eric, I do see one about Humanware tutorials and then Bookshare tutorials. So just very briefly, Bookshare does have a YouTube channel, as well as the Training and Learning Center. So bookshare.org. There's the Help Center at that top banner, and then there's a drop down for the Learning Center, and all the information is there. And yes, we do have a Bookshare YouTube page as well, and there's lots of videos and tutorials there.
Awesome. There was another comment in the Q&A. The pod form uses the word prevent effective reading of standard print. The wording still seems to imply a visual disability as opposed to something like dyslexia.
Right. So the POD, proof of disability form. Right. And it is interesting. We do hear this, and of course we're getting this from the law, right? It is an exemption to the copyright law. But no, I mean, dyslexia is preventing effective reading of standard print being, a printed book, printed textbook, right? If a student cannot manipulate that due to a physical disability, cannot see it due to a visual impairment, or cannot understand the content due to a learning difference, then it prevents effective reading of standard print. So it does encompass those different things.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. I think we're going to have to wrap up. We're
our
right on the dot for half an hour. We can spend hours talking about everything.
Yes.
There was a question also on the cost of the tablet. I'm going to encourage people to go take a look at humanware.com, our website, and then do school cover the cost. There is an APH version called the Mat Connect, which is on quota funds if you're interested, and your school has available quota funds on that. Thank you very
All right.
much. I have posted a final poll and just to see if this webinar was useful to you. So I'm going to leave it on for a couple of minutes so that people can have time to just answer the poll, please. And that's going to orient us on the next few webinars that we're going to be offering. I want to
Oh,
thank you,
that's great.
Vanessa, for your time, for joining.
Absolutely. Thank you
All right.
so much, Eric. I did put 2 links also in the chat just for anyone, my email. So further questions there. And then we do just have a very brief survey. It's a Google form. So if you would like to fill that out, again, that helps us as well. So thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, you guys, for logging in. Wishing you a good rest of your day and see you next time.